Hare Krishna. Somebody can please lead the invocation prayers.
Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakya Chakshur Anmilatam Jana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Jana Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karam Akhiyam Tadadi Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurave Shri Rapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavi Samsha Shri Rupam Sagarajitam Sagagana Irunaravitam Tamsa Jivam Sada Vaitam Savadudam Parijana Sachitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sagagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Samsa E Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpade Gopisa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastude Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Stude Devi Pranayanam Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripasantu Yuvasya Padantikam Pavanevivyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaurav Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for coming. So today we will cover Canto 3, Chapter 6, verses 27 to 40 and finish Chapter 6. We will have an easier paced and a shorter length class today. Instead of rushing through Chapter 6 today and then starting Chapter 7 also, we will start Chapter 7 next class. But before that, let you all explain one or more points and ask one or more questions. Let's do it quickly.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
I can try to explain the question which you had asked about explain the example of frog in the well and plow department. So just like a frog who resides in a well, he cannot imagine how vast the Pacific Ocean is. He tries to measure by and then he gets puffed up and then eventually he dies. So similarly, the material scientists, so they are compared, the PhD full form is compared here saying that it is the plow department, just like the tillers are not able to imagine the manifestations of the cosmic manifestations and the expansion or the cause of the work. Similarly, this is compared, this is the PhDs who are trying to figure out the cosmic manifestation of the universe, but they cannot, they are unsuccessful. That is compared to the endeavor of the frogs.
Okay.
Very Prabhu.
Yeah, go ahead.
Without form of Lord is inconceivable even to PhDs and froggish philosophical speculators to describe by words and minds to measure their limited senses. It is like the frog that wants to measure the length and breadth of the ocean and puff up ultimately but to die. A simile is the plow department for the tillers of the paddy field to understand cosmic manifestation. Hare Krishna.
Okay, very good. Okay. Very good points about the analogy of the frog trying to measure the Atlantic Ocean while he's sitting in a deep well. And the PhD plow department, Prabhupada uses an amazing analogy that the title meant for tillers in the paddy field, where the tillers in the paddy field attempt to understand the cosmic manifestation and the cause behind such wonderful work, but they cannot understand because they are only focusing on the little piece of land because they are puffed up, just as the frog is puffed up. Very good. Something else? What else? Inquiries? Okay. You all had to also.
We discussed about the process of creations based on previous creations was discussed. How Maitreya Muni is explaining how the Garbhadaksh Vishnu responded to those prayers of demigods. How we are not connected and all the elements are unmixed state. So the demigods are asking for directions of empowering and mercy to serve the Lord.
Yeah, very good. Everything was in unmixed stage, and these elemental 10 demigods did not know what to do. Therefore, they are asking for directions, mercy, empowerment, so that they can serve the creation for the pleasure of the Lord. Okay, very good. Anybody has any inquiries? You are also supposed to read through the verses with the chart that we populated.
Ravi, I wish to share with you. Last time I did ask you the purpose of the chart which you kindly gave, the verses, gross sense organ, controlling deity, subtle sense organ activity. So I prepared once again the entire thing, and I felt that was very meaningful. Though there were certain hidden meanings, which you explained last time also, it was a very useful exercise, which I wish to acknowledge with sincere thanks.
Very good. So we have discussed throughout that we have to engage our body, entire body in the service of the Lord. That way, we will get purified. So yes, the chart was helpful in understanding the verses a little easier. But besides this, my intent was also to engage all of you, all your body and senses, so that you all get purified more and more. And yes, very good realization that yes, it helped, and as well as very good endeavor that you went through and executed of reading and understanding. Very good. Anybody has any questions?
Only one point I would request you if you can elaborate. That chitta, consciousness part, which you were saying in subtle sense organ and consciousness, and under 26, verses 26.
Yeah. What's your question?
The question is about consciousness part chitta.
Yeah.
Transaction, objective action, able to conceive specific knowledge.
Yeah.
Only this part.
Yeah. So consciousness, we have studied in Bhagavad Gita that the presence of the soul in the body can be known from consciousness. And how do you know consciousness? Because the person is alive. So that's the chitta part, that the person is alive and he is able to perceive everything using the body. So the consciousness is the gross part, although consciousness is not gross, consciousness is subtle. But what the chart then explains is that how do you know consciousness? So that's where the subtle part of the consciousness comes about the chitta, meaning you are alive, meaning the consciousness is within the body. Therefore, you have that chitta or the ability to perceive everything, and therefore the activity or the transaction says that because of that presence of consciousness within the body, you are able to conceive the transactions and the specific knowledge. Does that help you?
Clarified. Thank you.
Okay, very good inquiry. Any last questions, comments, realizations?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Just one realization when we were populating this chart and going through everything. I mean, for me personally, I was just feeling that, being blessed to be reading Srimad Bhagavatam and knowing more and more about the, cosmic manifestation or how the universe is created and all of us and all, how everything works, Prabhu.
Yeah, very good. Very good realization as well of understanding. So very good hearing with rapt attention. Therefore, you are able to understand rather than simply reading for the sake of reading. Very good endeavor. Okay. So we'll continue. We'll continue with Canto 3, Chapter 6, from verse number 27 onwards. So we discussed last class about the development of the gigantic universal form. And this discussion continues from verse number 27 onwards also. So part 3 is verses 27 to 34. And the title is Development of Planets, Living Entities, and Varnas. So just the development, the creation development discussion continues in this verse, from this verse also. And we'll read some purports also today. And many of the verses are actually straightforward. As we read through, you will realize that they are pretty straightforward, and Prabhupada's purports are also pretty straightforward, explaining the key points. Shalini, if you want to read verses 27 to 29 translations, this verses 27 to 29, the upper, middle, and lower planets creation is described.
Text 27 translation. Thereafter, from the head of the gigantic form, the heavenly planets were manifested, and from his legs, the earthly planets, and from his abdomen, the skies separately manifested themselves. Within them, the demigods and others were also manifested in terms of the modes of material nature. Text 28 translation. The demigods, qualified by the super excellent quality of the mode of goodness, are situated in heavenly planets, whereas the human beings, because of the nature and mode of passion, live on earth in company with their subordinates. Text 29. Living entities who are associates of Rudra develop in the third mode of material nature or ignorance. They are situated in the sky between the earthly planets and the heavenly planets.
So I in my communications, I always use this word super excellent. It comes directly from Srimad Bhagavatam also. Verse number 28 has this word super excellent. So from head, the heavenly planets are manifested, the head of the universal form. And the demigods who are in Sattva Guna, are the residents of heaven. From legs of the universal form, the earthly planets are manifested, and humans in the Rajoguna, the mode of passion, are the residents of earth. From abdomen, sky is manifested. So understand here that this reference to the sky does not refer to the sky that we know. Rather, from abdomen comes the region between earth and heaven, where the Yakshasha and the Rakshasha associates of Rudra, who are in the mode of ignorance, reside. And another category in the mode of ignorance are those who take birth as animals or on lower planets. In verse number 28 purport, I will shortly read, Srila Prabhupada explains that below human beings are animals. And although some animals like cows, horses, dogs, etc., mingle with human society, and although they are in mode of ignorance, but they mingle in human society, and such animals are habituated to living under the protection of humans. Shalini, read verse number 28 purport.
Hare Krishna. Text 28 purport. In Bhagavad Gita 14.14 and 15, it is said that those who are highly developed in the mode of goodness are promoted to the higher heavenly planetary system, and those who are overpowered by the mode of passion are situated in the middle planetary systems, the Earth and similar planets. But those who are surcharged with the mode of ignorance are degraded to the lower planetary systems or to the animal kingdom. The demigods are highly developed in the mode of goodness, and thus they are situated in the heavenly planets. Below human beings are the animals, although some of them mingle with human society. Cows, horses, dogs, etc. are habituated to living under the protection of human beings. The word atyantikena is very significant in this verse. By development of the mode of goodness of material nature, one can become situated in the heavenly planets. But by excessive development of the mode of passion and ignorance, the human being indulges in killing the animals who are meant to be protected by mankind. Persons who indulge in unnecessary animal killing have excessively developed in the mode of passion and ignorance and have no hope in advancing to the mode of goodness. They are destined to be degraded to the lower statuses of life. The planetary systems are calculated as upper and lower in terms of the classes of living entities who live there.
Okay, very good. So pretty straightforward verses and purport also. Any questions, comments, realizations? We'll read few more purports. Then continuing on, in verse number 29 purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that living entities are distributed all over the universe based on their qualities in the material modes. Just as in a train, especially in India, there are different classes. Same way in planetary systems, there are different levels, and according to the qualities of these individuals, they are spread all over the universe. We'll read verse 29 purport. Is our dear Aditi able to read verse 29 purport? Chapter 6, verse 29 purport.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. She and Kalyani are both not available, Prabhu. Is it okay if I read the purport, Prabhu?
Yes.
This middle portion of the sky is called Bhuvarloka, as confirmed by both Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti and Srila Jiva Goswami. In Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that those who develop in the mode of passion are situated in the middle region. Those who are situated in the mode of goodness are promoted to the regions of the demigods. Those who are situated in the mode of passion are placed in human society, and those who are situated in the mode of ignorance are placed in the society of animals or ghosts. There are no contradictions in this conclusion. Numerous living entities are distributed all over the universe in different planets and are so situated in terms of their own qualities in the modes of material nature. Hare Krishna.
Okay, very good. So the sky, the reference to the sky is not the sky that we know of, but we read in the purport that the sky is referring to the Bhuvar Loka, meaning the space between earth and heaven. Questions, comments, realizations? Okay. So verse number 30 to 33 describe how varnas are created. Again, are pretty straightforward, but we'll definitely read all these verses. Chandran Prabhu, are you able to read verse 30 to 33 translations?
Krishna Prabhu. Verse number 30, translation. O chief of the Kuru dynasty, the Vedic wisdom became manifested from the mouth of the Viraj, the gigantic form. Those who are inclined to this Vedic knowledge are called Brahmanas, and they are the natural teachers and spiritual masters of all the orders of society. Prabhu, next one. 1 second. Verse number 31, translation. Thereafter, the power of protection was generated from the arms of the gigantic Virat. From and in relation to such power, the Kshatriyas also came into existence by following the Kshatriya principle of protecting society from the disturbance of thieves and miscreants. Verse number 30. Verse number 30. Verse number 32. The means of livelihood of all persons, namely production of grains and their distribution to the prajas, was generated from the thighs of the Lord's gigantic form. The mercantile men who take charge of such execution are called Vaisyas. Verse number 33. Thereafter, service was manifested from the legs of the personality of God. Sorry. Prabhuji says 39, you want to read? Or?
33, you are reading
Hello?
correct? Continue.
Am I right? Thank you, Prabhuji. 33. Thereafter, services was manifested from the legs of the personality of Godhead for the sake of perfecting the religious function. Situated on the legs are the Sudras, who satisfy the Lord by service. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Hare Krishna. So from the mouth, Vedic wisdom and Brahmanas are manifested. Brahmanas' role is that they are natural teachers and spiritual masters. From arms, the power of protection and the Kshatriyas are manifested. Kshatriya's role is to protect society from disturbances of thieves and miscreants. From thighs, the means of livelihood of all persons, and the Vaishyas are manifested. The role of Vaishyas is to produce grains and distribute them to Praja. And from legs, service for the sake of perfecting dharma, the Shudras are manifested. The role of Shudras is to satisfy the Lord by service. In the purports, we'll read shortly of these verses on Varna. Srila Prabhupada explains the various duties of various Varnas. In verse number 30 purport, Srila Prabhupada quotes 4.13. Bhagavad Gita 4.13 verse, which is the Varnashram verse, that according to Guna and Karma, one is classified as Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra. Based on inclinations, one can be considered as a Brahmana, even though he may be born as a Shudra. So all Varnas are important. We have discussed at great length in our Bhagavad Gita study that there is no higher or lower Varna. All Varnas are important. They all come from different parts of the same universal form. Hence, no caste is degraded. Shudra is not to be considered lower. And to understand this, with an analogy, is that we don't treat our own hands differently from other parts of the body. All parts of our body are equal. Similarly, all Varnas come from the same universal form and they are all equal. Gopal Krishna Prabhu, verse 30, purport at a faster pace, please.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, he is not there, Prabhu, he is traveling.
Hey, Shalini, go ahead, read purport faster pace.
Prabhu, which one? 30?
30.
Hare Krishna. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4.13, the four orders of the human society developed with the order of the body of the gigantic form. The bodily divisions are the mouth, arms, waist, and legs. Those who are situated in the mouth are called Brahmanas. Those who are situated on the arms are called Kshatriyas. And those who are situated on the waist are called Vaishyas. And those who are situated on the legs are called Shudras. Everyone is situated in the body of the Supreme in his gigantic Vishwarupa form. In terms of the four orders, therefore, no caste is to be considered degraded because of being situated on a particular part of the body. In our own bodies, we do not show any actual difference in our treatment towards the hands or legs. Each and every part of the body is important, although the mouth is the most important of all the bodily parts. If other parts are cut off from the body, a man cannot continue his life. But if the mouth is cut off, one cannot live. Therefore, this most important part of the body of the Lord is called the sitting place of the Brahmanas, who are inclined to the Vedic wisdom. One who is not inclined to the Vedic wisdom, but to mundane affairs, cannot be called Brahmana, even if he is born of a Brahmana family or father. To have a Brahmana father does not qualify one to be a Brahmana. The main qualifications of a Brahmana is to be inclined to the Vedic wisdom. The Vedas are situated in the mouth of the Lord, and therefore anyone who is inclined to the Vedic wisdom is certainly situated on the mouth of the Lord, and he is a Brahmana. This inclination towards Vedic wisdom is not restricted to any particular caste or community. Anyone from any family and from any part of the world may become inclined to the Vedic wisdom and will qualify him as a real Brahmana. A real Brahmana is a natural teacher or spiritual master. Unless one has Vedic knowledge, one cannot become a spiritual master. The perfect knowledge of the Vedas is to know the Lord, the personality of Godhead, and that is the end of Vedic knowledge or Vedanta. One who is situated in the impersonal Brahman has no information of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and may become a Brahmana, but he cannot become a spiritual master. It is said in the Padma Purana, Sat Karma Nipuna Vipro, Mantra Tantra Visaradha, Avaishnavo Guru na Syad, Vaishnava Swa Pacho Guruho. An impersonalist can become a qualified Brahmana, but he cannot become a spiritual master unless and until he is promoted to the stage of Vaishnava or a devotee of the personality of Godhead. Lord Chaitanya, the great authority of Vedic wisdom in the modern age, stated, Kiba Vipra Kiba Nyayasi Sudra Kena Naya Ye Krishna Tattva Veta Say Guru Haya. A person may be a Brahmana or a Shudra or a Sannyasi, but if he happens to be well versed in the science of Krishna, then he is fit to become a spiritual master. Chaitanya Charitra Mita Madhya Leela 8.128. The qualification then of a spiritual master is not to be a qualified Brahmana, but to be well versed in the science of Krishna. One who is conversant with Vedic wisdom is a Brahmana, and only a Brahmana who is a pure Vaishnava and knows all the intricacies of the science of Krishna can become a spiritual master.
Questions, comments, realizations, pretty straightforward purport, but important purports. Okay. Then in verse number 31 purport, Prabhupada explains the problems of modern human society are due to lack of qualified Brahmanas and the over-influence of Vaishyas and Shudras. An example to understand this is that Lord Ram asked Bharat, when Lord Ram returned from exile, whether plants and trees are living nicely. So Lord Ram did not ask about living entities, because if trees are protected by the king, then automatically all living entities, including animals, will be taken care of by the king. We have discussed at great length in our previous cantos that how Yudhishthir Maharaj and Parikshit Maharaj were perfect administrators, giving protection to all citizens, including animals. But the modern administrators in the current society, they cannot give protection to anyone. Not to animals, not to trees, not to humans, because they are personally motivated. And therefore, Prabhupada says, because the modern administrators cannot protect, therefore people take life insurance. We'll read verse number 31 purport. Uncle, you want to read?
Hare Krishna. As the Brahmanas are recognized by their particular qualification of inclination towards transcendental knowledge of Vedic wisdom, so as the Kshatriyas are recognized by the power to protect society from the from the disturbing elements of thieves and miscreants. The word anuvrasta is significant. A person who follows Kshatriya principles by protecting society from thieves and miscreants is called Kshatriya, not the one who is simply born as Kshatriya. The conception of the caste system is always based on quality and not on the qualification of birth. Birth is an extraneous consideration. It is not the main feature of the orders and divisions. In Bhagavad Gita 18.41 to 44, the qualifications of the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras are specifically mentioned, and it is understood that all such qualifications are needed before one can be designated as belonging to a particular group. Lord Vishnu is always mentioned as the Purusha in all Vedic scriptures. Sometimes the living entities are also mentioned as Purushas, although they are essentially Purusha Shakti, within bracket Para Shakti or Para Prakriti, the superior energy of the Purusha, illusioned by the external potency of the Purusha, the Lord. The living entities falsely think of themselves as the Purusha, although they actually have no qualifications. The Lord has the power to protect. Of the three deities, Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara, the first has the power to create, the second has the power to protect, and the third has the power to destroy. The word Purusha is significant in this verse because the Kshatriyas are expected to represent the Purusha Lord in giving protections of Prajas, or Prajas, or all who are born in the land and water. Protection, therefore, meant for both man and the animals. In modern society, the Prajas are not protected from the hands of thieves and miscreants. The modern democratic state, which has no Kshatriyas, is a government of Vaishyas and Sudras, and not of Brahmanas and Kshatriyas, as formerly. Maharaja Yudhishthira and his grandson Maharaja Parikshit were typical Kshatriya kings, for they gave protection to all men and animals. When the personification of Kali attempted to kill a cow, Maharaja Parikshit had at once prepared himself to kill the miscreant, and the personification of Kali was banished from his kingdom. That is the sign of Purusha, or the representative of the Lord of Vishnu. According to Vedic civilization, a qualified Kshatriya monarch is given the respect of the Lord because he represents the Lord by giving protections to the Prajas. Modern elected presidents cannot even give protection from the theft cases, and therefore one has to take protection from an insurance company. The problems of modern human societies are due to the lack of qualified Brahmanas and Kshatriyas and the over influence of the Vaishyas and Sudras by the so-called general franchise. Hare Krishna.
Very good. Pretty straightforward. Again, all these varnas are being explained and their duties. Anybody has any questions? Further, on the point of service attitude, in verse number 33, Srila Prabhupada says, just have an attitude for service. Then Krishna will empower how to do that particular service. Prabhupada explains that all ISKCON devotees have never studied marketing, but still ISKCON devotees are expert book distributors. They are expert marketers. Devotees do not know anything about any of such services, but by developing the service attitude, Krishna gives the intelligence by which devotees go on to become book distributors and marketers. Lord is pleased only by service. The Jnanis, they do not do any service, although they may be elevated to a certain extent. The Jnanis attain Brahman effulgence, but since there is no activity in the effulgence, hence Jnanis fall down and Jnani take birth as social workers on earth to do welfare activity. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Brahmaji gives the example that Jnani is doing so much effort, but do not understand the Lord. And he explains this with an analogy of Jnani's endeavor to compare is compared as beating empty husk. Jnanis are simply beating the empty husk, but no rice is coming out. Therefore, Brahmaji says, the Jnani's only gain is pain. While devotees, they are joyful performing the devotional services, versus Jnani's path is troublesome, and still the Jnanis do not attain the highest perfection. Questions, comments, realizations?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I just had one small question.
Yeah.
So here, when you're referring to Gyanis, you're talking about even those in this material world who are trying to do Ashtanga Yoga and Jnana Yoga, Prabhu?
Yeah, that's those who are following Ashtanga Yoga and Jnana Yoga. Their only gain is pain. Plus, recall from the yoga ladder that those who follow Jnana Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga and stop at that levels, Jnana Yogis attain Brahman effulgence and Ashtanga Yogis attain Paramatma realization. But Brahman effulgence and Paramatma realization are not the highest realizations. Therefore, we have read in Canto 1, Chapter 7, the first about 7 or 10 verses, where the summary of Srimad Bhagavatam is given, that when Srila Vyasadeva followed the meditation process of Bhakti Yoga, Srila Vyasadeva was able to see the Brahman effulgence and the Paramatma, but he bypassed all of them and said these are lower level of realizations, and he went past them and went to Bhagwan realization. Shalini?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Therefore, Srila Prabhupada says that all varnas should develop service attitude towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada explains that it is better to be a Shudra with service attitude than to be a Brahmana without a service attitude. The purpose of Varnashram is to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Otherwise, it is useless labor. Shrama eva hi kevalam. And then Prabhupada goes on to say that don't worry about trying to perfectly follow Varnashram. Don't try to attain perfection by Varnashram. Even if one is not a perfect Brahmana or a perfect Kshatriya or a perfect Vaishya or a perfect Shudra, even if not following Varnashram, all these don't matter. Just if one takes to service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can attain perfection. Mother Chandra Aunty, verse 34 translation is straightforward.
Text 34, Hare Krishna. All these different social divisions are born with their occupational duties and living conditions from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, for unconditional life and self-realization, one has to worship the Supreme Lord under the direction of the spiritual master. Hare Krishna.
So all varnas belong to different portions of the universal form. Hence, in Bhagavad Gita 15.7, Krishna says that all jivas are my parts. Hence, all living entities should express gratitude by serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. From verse 35 is the next part. Part 4 is verses 35 to 40. Title is Maitreya Muni felt unworthy to describe Lord's unlimited glories. Uncle, read verse 35, 36 translations.
Hare Krishna. Translation verse 35. O Vidura, who can estimate or measure the transcendental time, worth, and potency of the gigantic form manifested by the internal potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Verse number 36, translation. In spite of my inability, whatever I have been able to hear from the spiritual master and whatever I could assimilate, I am now describing in glorification of the Lord by pure speech, for otherwise my power of speaking would remain unchanged. Hare Krishna.
So Maitreya Muni feels it is impossible to describe the glories of the Lord. We can only attempt according to our capacities. This is humility of Maitreya Muni. And he says that whatever I am speaking is what I have heard from my spiritual master, Parashar Muni. Lord also became the spiritual master of Maitreya Muni. Maitreya Muni says, although I am not qualified to glorify the Lord, still I will try to glorify so that I do not speak anything nonsense, plus so that I can get purified. In the purport, we'll read shortly for verse 36. Prabhupada explains, glorification of the Lord is not a question of research. Therefore, we have to hear submissively from the spiritual master and repeat. Only then we can glorify the Lord. In Canto 5 of Srimad Bhagavatam, it describes that Ananta Shesh, which is Lord Balaram himself, Ananta Shesh is describing different pastimes of the Lord by each of his unlimited different mouths from time immemorial and will continue for eternity. Still, Ananta Shesh cannot complete. So we cannot think that by studying Krishna book, which has roughly 90 stories, that we are now knowing Krishna. No. There are so many universes. There will be Janmashtami every day in one or the other universes. So understand that in other universes also there will be Mother Devaki and Vasudev. But it is not necessary that on the Janmashtami day Krishna appears in a prison. No, they are done. There will be something similar, but they are not 100% identical. So these Srimad Bhagavatam 90 stories of Krishna in Canto 10, which is Krishna book, as well as this Srimad Bhagavatam, they are just headlines. There is so much more for us to know about Krishna. Shalini, if you want to read verse 36 purport.
Hare Krishna. The purification of the conditioned soul necessitates purification of his consciousness. By the presence of consciousness, the presence of the transcendental soul is verified. As soon as consciousness leaves the body material body is not active. Consciousness is perceived, therefore, by activities. The theory put forth by empiric philosophers that consciousness can remain in an inactive state is the proof of their poor fund of knowledge. One should not become unchaste by stopping the activities of pure consciousness. If the activities of pure consciousness are stopped, certainly the conscious living force will be otherwise engaged, because unless engaged, the consciousness has no standing. Consciousness cannot be silent even for a moment. When the body does not act, the consciousness acts in the form of dreams. Unconsciousness is artificial, but by induced extraneous help, it remains for a limited period. But when the intoxication of the drug is finished, or when one is awake, the consciousness again acts earnestly. Maitreya's statement is that in order to avoid unchaste conscious activities, he was trying to describe the unlimited glories of the Lord, although he did not have the ability to describe them perfectly. This glorification of the Lord is not a product of research, but the result of hearing submissively from the authority of the spiritual master. It is also not possible to repeat all that one has heard from a spiritual master, but one can narrate as far as possible by one's honest endeavor. It does not matter whether the Lord's glories are fully explained or not. One must attempt to engage one's bodily, mental, and verbal activities in the transcendental glorifications of the Lord. Otherwise, such activities will remain unchaste and impure. The existence of the conditioned soul can be purified only by the method of engaging mind and speech in the service of the Lord. The Tridandi sannyasi of the Vaishnava school accepts 3 rods, representing the vow to engage in the service of the Lord with body, mind, and speech, whereas the Ekdandi sannyasi takes the vow to become one with the Supreme. Since the Lord is absolute, there is no distinction between him and his glories. The glories of the Lord is chanted by the Vaishnava sannyasi are as substantial as the Lord himself. And thus, while glorifying the Lord, the devotee becomes one with him in transcendental interest, although he remains eternally a transcendental servitor. This simultaneously one and different position of the devotee makes him eternally purified, and thus life becomes a complete success. Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada clearly explains that glorification is not matter of research. We have to submissively hear and repeat what we are hearing from a bona fide spiritual master. Sridhar Prabhu, verse 37 translation.
Hare Krishna. The highest perfectional gain of humanity is to engage in discussions of the activities and glories of the pious actor. Such activities are so nicely arranged in writing by the greatly learned sages that the actual purpose of the ear is served just by being near them. Hare Krishna.
So how one can get perfection of speech is by glorifying the Lord. By our body, mind, and senses, we should try our best to glorify the Lord. Prayers means to glorify the Lord and not to ask for material benedictions. Prayers means express gratitude for all the facilities that the Lord has provided in the material world for us. We have to start rendering service with the mouth, with the tongue. That take prasadam, glorify the Lord by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra and only speaking Krishna Katha. Verse 38 is again straightforward. Chandran Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Can I read 38, Prabhu?
Yeah.
Translation 38. O my son, the original poet, Brahma, after mature meditation for 1000 celestial years, could know only that the glories of the Supreme Soul are inconceivable. Hare Krishna.
Okay, pretty straightforward
And-
verse that we have discussed the same point earlier also, where Brahmaji also says the same point, that the Lord is inconceivable. And if we recall our Bhagavad Gita discussion in chapter 13, where Arjuna asked 6 questions. One of the question is Gayam. What is Gayam? And we have discussed in chapter 13 that Gayam is Avigayam, meaning Gayam is the absolute truth. The Lord, the absolute truth of the Lord, is unknowable. That's the same point explained multiple times, as well as here in verse 38. Mother Chandra Aunty, verse 39 and 40 translations.
Text 39. The wonderful potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is bewildering even to the jugglers. That potential power is unknown even to the self-sufficient Lord, so it is certainly unknown to others. Text 40. Words, mind, and ego, with their respective controlling demigods, have failed to achieve success in knowing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, we simply have to offer our respectful obeisances into Him as a matter of sanity. Hare Krishna.
What to speak of Brahmaji if Lord cannot understand his own glories? Maitreya Muni concludes that all mind, ego, etc. fail to achieve success. Even Brahmaji failed. Rather, we have to simply offer our obeisances. Discussing Krishna Katha with devotees is the highest opulence in the material world. Now, by this point, will seem surprising. Acharyas have explained that when pure devotees are narrating a particular pastime of the Lord, so how are they narrating? It's not that what they have read before. Yes, they have read before. But these pure devotees, when they are narrating the pastimes of the Lord, for the pleasure of these pure devotees, Krishna manifests the same pastime in the pure devotee's heart, and the pure devotee is narrating what he is seeing in his heart. So if the pure devotee is narrating the same pastime 10 times, that pastime gets manifested within the heart that many times for the pure devotee, and he is narrating what he is observing. Questions, comments, realizations?
Yes, Prabhuji, I have heard just 1 or 2 times in our Toronto temple, that Sunday program, when the Prabhus, when they are explaining, as if that is happening in front, you can visualize.
Yeah, very good. Very good observation. Very good that you are attending the programs and listening with rapt attention. Yeah, very good. Okay, let me give you homework. As I said, we will be ending early today instead of rushing through and then starting chapter 7. So one homework question is an analogy. A small banyan fruit contains thousands of small seeds, and each seed holds the potency of another tree, which again holds the potency of many millions of such fruits as causes and effects. But the speculators can never appreciate the simple potential activities of the banyan tree. Comes from verse number 39. And for the next homework, for the next class, read chapter 7 if you have not already read chapter 7. You were supposed to read today, but if you already read, it's good. Otherwise,
Mostly a discussion of Vidura with Maitreya Muni.
yeah, correct point. The next chapter is largely further inquiries by Vidura. Anybody has any questions, comments, realizations?
Prabhuji, I have a small question.
Yeah.
While reading for the homework yesterday, I felt that the Lord himself doesn't know his during Virat Rupa his own potency. Am I right? Or I have misunderstood?
Yeah, the Lord's glories are infinite and he does not know, and therefore Lord does not know how come Srimati Radharani loves him so much. Therefore the Lord appeared as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the mood of a devotee, or as in the mood of Srimati Radharani, just to understand Srimati Radharani. So you are correct that Lord's glories are infinite.
Thank you.
Okay. Are we okay to stop here?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.